I would love to do that. I would love to believe the news media here, but they're owned. Everybody knows that the news medias are owned, and who are they owned by? They're either owned by weapons manufacturers. It's really hard to tell what's going on. Just like my video from yesterday about the Kiev ghost, it's very hard to tell what's going on. What news source can you trust? Who can you trust? I mean, everywhere that I look, I see different people taking hardcore stances on things that we're not necessarily well versed in. I mean, 6 months ago, if you looked at the news, it was all about the pandemic. And then all of a sudden, it's completely switched. Completely switched. It's switched so much to where international leaders in the world are threatening, or at least mentioning the fact that they have to prepare their nuclear arsenal. Now, where is this all leading? Who knows? Who knows? But there's a lot of different things that are going on here, and I figured we could try to break down and figure out what is going on to the best of our abilities, because Putin put his nuclear deterrent on alert, which I'm assuming means be ready to either engage or try to fight off a nuclear attack. I don't know. We have a lot of people in the Western countries who are talking a lot of mad shit. I was listening to the radio today where they were talking about how Ukraine and Georgia need to become part of NATO, but Putin's already said in the past, and probably Russia and the oligarchs have already said in the past, that ain't gonna happen, because exactly what's happening right now would happen. So why are we trying so hard to get the Ukraine into the EU and into NATO? And why does Russia not want them? Well, we already went over that a few days ago as well. We know it's Russia's interest. But let's see what's going on over here off of Reuters or routers, however you, whatever you want to say that is. So U.S. says nuclear alert totally unacceptable, which I would assume, yeah, that sounds unacceptable. Putin blames aggressive NATO member statements. And a lot of the NATO member statements, they have been saying some very aggressive things. And there's just a lot that's going on. Over 360,000 refugees have fled Ukraine, UN says. And BP gives up Rosneft's stake, writing off $25 billion. There's a lot of shit going on right now. And for some reason, they don't think that the Russians are staying in Ukraine. President Vladimir Putin put Russia's nuclear deterrent on high alert on Sunday in the face of a barrage of Western reprisals for his war on Ukraine, which is said to have repelled Russian ground forces attacking its biggest cities. The United States said Putin was escalating the war with dangerous rhetoric, talking about nuclear blast. That is very dangerous. Amid signs that the biggest assault on a European state since World War II was not producing rapid victories, but instead generating far-reaching and concerted Western response. Less than 4 days after it started, the invasion has triggered a Western political, strategic, economic, and corporate response unprecedented in its extent and coordination. This is the first time in so long that any of this I don't think this has ever actually happened. It's not in the modern world anyway. With this war on Ukraine, the world will never be the same again. That's what they said. They say that after everything, guys. They say, and you know what? After every day, the world will never be the same as it was the day before. Go figure. It is now more than ever time for societies and alliances to come together to build our future on trust, justice, and freedom. It is the moment to stand up and speak out. Might does not make right. Never did, never will, he said. The 27-nation European Union on Sunday decided for the first time in its history to supply weapons to a country at war. That is huge. How do you think Russia feels about that? Knowing that all of Europe is against him, I guess he does have China. A source told Reuters that 450 million euros, worth $507 million of weaponry to Ukraine. Beryl at News conference on Sunday said EU's support would include providing fighter jets to the Ukraine. And are they going to get them there in time? The Russian ruble plunged nearly 20% to a record new low versus the dollar. Now there's just so much going on, and it's hard to keep up with it all. Germany, which had already frozen a planned undersea gas pipeline from Russia, said it would increase defense spending massively, casting off decades of reluctance to match its economic power with military clout. That's the first time Germany has done anything like that probably since the World Wars. So everything is starting to ramp up. Everyone's starting to ramp up their war machines. And I know that these companies who work on the war machines, who provide the tools for the war machines, are feeling great. Especially all these weapons that are getting shipped over to Ukraine. Those weapons manufacturers have to be so damn happy. They have to be so happy. There's so much at play here. So much at play here. British Oil, BP, the biggest foreign investor in Russia, said it was abandoning its stake in state oil company Rosneft at a cost of up to $25 billion, shrinking its oil and gas reserves in half. This is getting crazy. Now, is everyone posturing or what? How is this working? But Putin, who has called the invasion special operation thrust, an alarming new element into play when he ordered Russia's deterrent forces, which wield nuclear weapons, onto high alert. He has justified the invasion by saying neo-Nazis rule Ukraine and threaten Russia's security, a charge of Kiev and Western governments say is baseless propaganda. What is baseless propaganda nowadays? Am I reading baseless propaganda right now? I mean, everything is propaganda. Not only do Western countries take unfriendly measures against our country, said Putin, I mean illegal sanctions that everyone knows about very well. But also the top officials of leading NATO countries allow themselves to make aggressive statements with regards to our country. He's talking about all the different countries they're basically saying, hey, we need to get people over there. But the thing is, I just don't think that most people, like most of the citizens, support that. It's like Franklin Roosevelt during World War II. He did everything he possibly could to get into that war because he was dealing with an America they were a hermit country. They did not want to face anybody else, especially after World War I. They didn't want to deal with any of that crap. But in order to take care of the Nazis, to get Nazis out of there, occupied Germany Nazi, I don't even know if that made any sense. He had to try to get us into the war, and he basically forced Japan's hand. What's happening now? What are the actual geopolitics that are happening right now that we're not in tune with, that we don't know, that we haven't heard? Putin previously referred to his nuclear arsenal in a speech announcing the start of the invasion on Thursday, saying Russia's response to any country that stood in its way would be immediate and carry consequences that you have never encountered in your history. Borrell at a news conference, and this is the problem whenever you have a bunch of countries with a bunch of nuclear bombs, because ain't nobody wanting to mess with that shit. We will end the world if people aren't being smart about it. Borrell at a news conference in Brussels said Russia had clearly threatened a nuclear attack on countries supporting Ukraine after the invasion. We are afraid that Russia is not going to stop in Ukraine. Interesting. Do you really? U.S. Ambassador for United Nations Linda Thomas-Greenfield told the UN Security Council, this is another escalatory and unnecessary step that threatens us all. We urge Russia to tone down this dangerous rhetoric regarding nuclear weapons. Yeah, but everybody else is doing dangerous rhetoric too. Everyone's talking shit. Everyone's talking shit everywhere. And it's like, what do you do? Who do you believe? I would love to believe my own country. I would love to do that. I would love to believe the news media here, but they're owned. Everybody knows that the news medias are owned, and who are they owned by? They're either owned by weapons manufacturers. A lot of these companies are all intertwined because a lot of people own a bunch of these different things. They all kind of mesh together. But what are the forces that are actually making all of this happen? Because it looks like the people, especially protesters in the Americas at least, we're having protests, anti-war protests, saying we do not want that war.
Putin is a bully. Peace for Ukraine. They've also been chanting across the streets, "Stop this war."
I always wondered what the point of doing a protest against the opposing team's war. I mean, what do you think? Putin's going to see you all doing that and he's be like, okay, I'll stop.
The Ukrainians we've talked with, I can tell you they're a kind and determined people. They have found a home here in LA, and today they have found support for their cause.
I'm against the war. I think that Putin is not right. He's a killer because people died.
Of course. Now we have to be real and just be like, okay, well, we know what bias this is.
Right now, in our brother's country, that's why I'm here, to support Ukrainian people.
President Zelensky is a true hero. He's there with his people, not running away like most leaders would have done, and he's willing to fight to the death for himself, for his country, for his people.
Putin to stop this. Somebody, I think, people of Russia.
Yeah, but why is Putin doing it in the first place? What's going on here? Why is this all happening in the first place? It's very easy to wave your flags and say stop. But are the other sides willing to come to the table to make it all stop? Is everyone willing to come together and make it stop? And what do we have to do to get ourselves in that position to be able to make it stop? But don't forget, don't fret, never fret. It's happening in Russia too. Anti-war protests are going on in Russia as well. Now this is a lot of Russian citizens who are being arrested because they're doing their own anti-war protests over in Russia. It's almost as if the people in both countries, now I know that was a biased slant, I would rather see anti-war in general instead of pro-US anti-Putin or pro-US anti-Russian, because all the news that I'm seeing is no one being objective and everyone being completely biased and saying you need to support Ukraine because Ukraine needs this. But I still don't get why we need to support Ukraine and who's like why is it so important? But I guess it's all going to
everyone,
start.
George
Oh no!
Here. Thanks for.
I guess it's all going to start showing itself as time goes by, and as time goes by, we'll start figuring out a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. Hopefully, Putin's not going to press that button on the nuclear bomb. Obviously, that's very serious rhetoric. Hopefully, not serious. Obviously, hopefully not serious. Hopefully, he's not serious about it. But it is scary. But they're having the meeting soon, and we're going to see exactly how this is going and what's really going on with everything, because hopefully it doesn't get any worse.